I'm live. So, at the Los Angeles Pen Show, there was a panel discussion with 4 or 5 experts at the front of the room and 20 people in the back of the room watching and learning, hopefully, listening, hopefully, to what the experts had to say. Of course, when you have 4 experts talking about something, you're going to have 5 opinions and or more. But I was thinking about what they were talking about and came up with my own 6th opinion. And so anyway, the shtick was there are a lot of people that collect and use modern fountain pens, pens that are made today or tomorrow, and how to get them interested in dipping their feet into the perhaps deeper end of the pool and going into vintage and doing it in a responsible or giving them responsible advice. That was the hard part. Just telling them to buy something, that was easy, but trying to inform them how they might dip their feet into the deeper water. And the discussion aimed at the type of pens they might start with. Hello, Kim. I'm saying hello to my live audience here. What models they might want to start with. And here's where I stepped in to the discussion. If I wanted to suggest the tasting, as it were, of the joy that I find in fountain pens and most fountain pen collectors find in fountain pens, it was the ingenuity of the design, the creativity that went into making this kind of lever versus that kind of lever, this kind of plastic over that kind of plastic. Everyone was competing in the teens and 20s and 30s to come up with something that would sell well. And hence, there's not just one Waterman pen. Yes, they could have stopped with a Waterman 12. That would have been perfect. Why not? But they didn't. They added a lever to it, a clip, and now you suddenly have 3 different pens you can collect, not just one. So part of the idea of collecting pens is to collect a group of them, and they're all different sizes or different colors or different shapes. They're over a particular period, might be 10 years or 100 years of pen construction and manufacturing. Anyway, I came up with a pen, 5 pens that would give any new collector a sort of feel to what pen collecting is like for me and for others of us. Each of these pens I'm going to mention that I will mention are pens that you can find an example of at any given pen show. And I'll do these in order of era, starting with the earliest. An early pen might be a Waterman 12. And that okay, where's the Waterman 12? God bless. Why didn't I come prepared for this? Okay, pretend this is a 12, not a 12 and a half. But this is a perfectly good example of what I mean by a pen. So here's an early Waterman pen, eyedrop fill pen, and elegant You can get it this size, you can get it bigger, you can get it very much bigger, you can get it in black, you can get it in red, you can get it in overlay. There's all sorts of variations on this particular pen that can keep you busy for years and years and years. But you should be able to find a Waterman 12 or its siblings, like the 12 and a half, at any pen show. So I'm just going to write this down so I don't forget what the heck I'm saying. Waterman 12. That doesn't have a nib. Can we find a pen that has a nib? Why didn't I come prepared? No nib. God bless. Does this have a nib? Yes, it has a nib. Okay. So we have a Waterman 12. 12. That's an eyedrop filler. And that's a good thing to start with. You can find dozens at a pen show. They can be plain black hardware, or they can be sterling overlay. You can probably find one maybe for $50 that's plain in black, if you're lucky, if I'm not there first. And it goes up to almost infinity. Okay, so that's one. Now let's do one that is filled with a lever. What would that pen be? You could say Schaefer. You could say Waterman again, but I'm going to twist it out a bit. I'm going to say, I'll say a Wall. A Wall all metal pen. And that has a lever. All metal pens, say that 3 times, look sort of like this. They have a nice sterling or gold fill, silver fill barrel cap. Sometimes the section is metal, sometimes it's hard rubber. They all have levers. And you can find these at a pen show. You'll probably not have any difficulty finding these pens. And because they come in different sizes and different patterns, you can spend an entire lifetime collecting all of those if you want to. You could probably buy one of those at a pen show. I'm going to put the prices over here. You can go, 50 and up. This one you can buy for 50 and up. You might find it a lady's pen, a small size, a lady's size, or the ring top size for $50 for the larger man size pen with the clip, as it were. You might pay $100 for. Sometimes you can get them less, sometimes more, depending on condition. But again, both of these, Waterman 12s and Wall all metal pens, have lots of variety just within them, within their lives. So we've got hard rubber, metal. Let's do plastic. What would be a nice plastic pen? Let's do a Schaefer. And let's do a Schaefer Balance pen. They most of the time have levers. Some of them have this piston system is expensive to fix, hard to fix. So I would go with a lever. But the Schaefer Balances give you lots of variety. Oh, dear Pierre. Hold on, I'll be with you in a second, just a second. I'm almost there. You can go with the first year balance. You can go with later versions with the stripes. You can, and these come in many different colors and many different sizes, from a small little golf pen to a big senior sized pen here. They made them over almost over a decade of manufacturing, and they are, their streamlinedness was a big thing when they came out. Everyone else had to try to copy that because this was like the coolest thing ever in 1929. And so other people tried to streamline their items to one degree or another. But this, again, gives you a perfectly good place to start. If you just collected Schaefer balances, it's a lifetime occupation. And there's always one that you don't have. And you can start that path for $50, maybe even 45, maybe even 40. And you can go all over the place with it. And it's really fun when you can be focused, but also see the variety. So what would be the next pen? Well, another pen that I really like, that's fun to collect and fun to use, is a Parker 51. They have a different filling system. They either have a vacuumatic or a aerometric filling system. They were the most popular pen I think ever made, and they come with the same degree of joy of being able to spend an entire lifetime collecting all different varieties. But you can start with a plain black aerometric, maybe for $50. Maybe. I mean, this is based on purchases I made at a pen show recently. I think I bought one of each of these things at the pen show in LA. And this is what I spent. Actually, I didn't buy a Waterman 12. I sold some for $80 to $120, I think I might have sold one for. We'll talk about nibs in a minute. I'm just talking about models of pens right now. So the last pen, who are we missing? There's other, we could swap these models out with something else, like the Skyline here. This pen, you can find probably 100 of these at a pen show. Maybe not in gray, but you can find 100 of these pens. And but so this last one, this could be a toss-up. It could be Estabrooks. You can buy those for $10 and up. They have steel nib pens. You can buy Parker 45s. There are some modern pens that you could use instead of the 51, but the ones that actually use converters as a filling system or a cartridge, that's where I draw the line. They're too much like modern pens to make me smile. I think you have to dive back. I think all of the pens that you buy as a vintage person should fill out of a bottle. I know that's probably will be people barking at me on the comments about that. But again, finding these, I don't know what another one could be. It could be a Skyline like this. It could be a dual fold, Parker dual fold. There are so many others that these brands could swap out here. But for you, if you go to a pen show and you have $300 to spend, you can start a really nice little collection going. Now, let me put these back as I gather my thoughts. Now it's about the nib. I'll backtrack a second. These are about different kinds of materials, different shapes, different designs, different filling systems, different from what you see today. I mean, I don't know whether any modern fountain pen is manufactured with a lever, and I imagine some are filled with an eyedropper, but most modern pens have cartridges and converters in them, and most vintage fountain pens do not. So, but here, anyway, this is a very nice way to start your collection, and you can expand on it any way you want to go. If you're collecting and using modern fountain pens, you do find right now, right here, today, that your nibs are not going to be as fine, as flexible, as broad, as you pick any descriptor, and the older ones back in the olden days will have bigger and better, more responsive, more flexible, more whatever. They were in the past. They don't exist now because it's too expensive to make a nib. It takes too much money and too much time, and the expertise is gone. So many people go to vintage and never go back. They never look back at their modern pens ever again because these write so much better. And if you're an artist or a calligrapher, that's very true right from the get-go. If you are a writer and a journaler, you may not feel the need as you're writing in your, lined book like this to have a pen that has an overly flexible nib. Maybe that isn't important. I should be asking Minimal Scholar to join me because he has a huge collection of all modern fountain pens he uses for journaling, and he's a really nice guy, and I think he's stuck using modern pens, and they're great for his uses. For an artist, on the other hand, and calligrapher, I think they would find modern pens not good enough for their needs. So my question I would have, if I met someone walking into a pen show, whether they have never been to a pen show before or have only used modern fountain pens and want to try to buy something like this, the question that I'm going to ask them is, what do you use your pen for? And if they say, I'm a student at school, I take notes really, really quickly, I like using a fine pointed pen, then my mind will go to a certain kind of pen to suggest. Might be a Schaefer Triumph nibbed pen with a Waverly tip that can sort of do anything it needs to do quickly. Parker 51 would be another example for that person. If they said they were a lefty, my mind goes in a different direction. Well, it stays where the Schaefer-Waverly nib is great for lefties, but it would go to other directions. No, you don't want a fine nibbed pen because it'll feel scratchy because you're writing with it sort of going the wrong way most of the time. If they're a calligrapher and they want to do Old English lettering, I'll suggest that you need a broad nibbed pen with a sharp side stroke and maybe look for this kind of a nib. If they are doing copperplate or lettering based on pressure and shading, then they want a flexible nib pen, and I'll aim them in that direction. To know why people, what people will do with the pen is really important to me, to be able to find the right pen for the right person. Almost all of these pens, well, Waterman 12, Wall All Metal Pen, Firste Balance, these all can include or can have flexible nibs in them. They can have stub nibs in them. They can have very fine points in them. They all the points were interchangeable. All of these makers had those nibs. If it's a flexible Schaefer nib you want, you have to come to me because I'm the one that has them. No, there's other people that collect them. They're relatively hard to find because most of their nibs were very firm. The Parker 51 is the only one that probably won't have a nib that is overly flexible. You might have one that has a little bit of flex to it, but that one is mainly Johnny One Note kind of a pen. But maybe that one note is what you want. It's a pen that I use if I have to think about, if I had to write a script for what I'm saying now so I'm not tripping over my words, I would have written it with a Parker 51. So what I'd like to do maybe is to find Craig Roccanova, who he just put up a video answering the same question. He was one of the 4 or 5 people that was on this board that I was speaking about. He just said start with the Waterman 12. And the reason he chose that was partly because it had the fewest moving parts. He was under the impression, and other people in the room were under the impression, that modern pen users will find levers too complicated, or not, they're foreign to them. They don't really know how easily they work. I don't see that as being much of an issue. You just learn how to pump the lever and make it go. It's a lot easier than taking the pen apart and putting a cartridge in, or filling with a converter. So again, there are things that will be different for a contemporary pen user to a vintage pen user, one of which, I don't know if I can illustrate it here, but most of the time, see what happened right there? That doesn't happen with modern pens. I just dipped it in water. For pens to especially to make a flexible line, you need a lot of ink right at the bow. And you can do that by just shaking the pen and ink will fall out of it. That is something that will not happen. You really have to shake it like you're shaking a thermometer down with a modern pen to have that happen. So that is one little tiny learning curve that they have to pay attention to. When these pens were made before the ballpoint era, everyone knew that they were essentially an ink bottle in the shape of a pen. Frank Dubiel used to refer to them as an ink bomb. The ink can fall out of it at any given moment if you shake it a little bit or hard. And you just learn not to do that. That's all there is to it. This is a nice nib. Here, I thought it was not going to be nice. It's really tough, but it has a really interesting feel to it. Yay me for having this in my collection. It would be interesting to find out, though, from other people what they would suggest. Paul Arano, who was a friend of mine I've known for 40 years, he suggested the Parker 21 or the Parker 45. The 21 is like a 51, except a good half of them you'll see at a pen show have cracks in them. They used kind of crappy plastics on them, and they crack, and sometimes you can't see them, but your hands will get all inky because they're cracked in the section. So I said, why should we suggest to someone a pen that is fraught with problems? I thought that was not a wise thing to do. Offer a pen that is in good quality pen, made with good quality materials. Otherwise, you'll lose someone from the fold. We want people to be interested in these things. He also suggested the Parker 45. Now, the Parker 45 is a 60-year-old pen or so. Is it 65? I don't know when they came out. And those pens you can easily find at a pen show. I just think they're too modern. They look almost like a modern day Parker. And they don't have any of what I think is the charming thing about using an old pen. Their filling system is a cartridge. That's a downer for me, or a converter, which is almost worse. No, it's not that's better. But so anyway, these are the 5 I would pick, the 4 I would pick, and then the 5th could be an Esterbrook, could be a Skyline, it could be a dual fold. Going into other pens like Conklin Crescents, yes, you could collect those all day long if you want to for the rest of your life, but they're going to be $100 or more, and up. You could collect Schaefer snorkels. They have one of the coolest filling systems ever, but if they're not working, that's $100 repair job or $50 repair or whatever. I don't know what people charge, but that pen needs 5 rubber parts in it that work. The sack, the washer, another washer, an O-ring, and a plug. Those are 5 things it needs that work. Otherwise, it won't work. It won't suck. It'll suck in the other form of the word, but it will not suck in the taking in liquid form of the word. But that's throwing someone off in the really deep end of the pool, telling them to start buying those because it's just going to be expensive. What other pens Vacuumatics, another perfectly lovely pen to collect, but I find the repair of them off-putting. If you find one that's working, it's great, but often you will learn when you start collecting these pens to fix them yourself. You take out the section, put a new sack in the pen, and you're done. If you send it to someone else and they do that, and they'll send it back to you, the cost might be $5 if I do it. No, I don't charge $5 anymore, but I used to charge $5. If someone's at a pen show and they need a new sack and I have all my tools there, I'll fix it for $5. If I have to, unwrap a package that's sent to me, take the pen out of the package, find that the section needs to be soaked, I have to soak the section, I have to, then when I fix it, put it back in a box, write a label, walk to the post office, it's $50. It should be. I don't know if it is, but it's $50. So the idea of buying pens that you can learn to fix on your own, and putting a sack in a pen is about as easy as a repair can be. Yes, you'll learn that some pens break when you're taking them apart. I break pens. I broke a pen yesterday trying to take it apart. It happens. You can take all the precautions that you want, but every once in a while you get a pen that, let's say someone fixed this pen in 1950, 5 years after it was made, and they glued it together. It's not meant to be glued together, but let's say someone glued it together. Well, I don't know that. The person that glued it together isn't the one that sold it to me. And I'm, trying to take it apart and it cracks. That always can happen. And so repairing, I'm not going to teach you how to repair pens in this little thing, but the idea that you can learn to resack a pen relatively easily is possible. For you to learn how to do a vacuumatic filler, that's a lot more complicated. You need special tools, you need special sacks, you need lots of experience. And so these pens that I mentioned are easy to deal with. Other ones can be more complicated. Does anyone have any questions or suggestions for other pens for the 5 that someone could walk into a pen show and start getting their feet wet? Write them in your comments below. If you have 5 completely different pens, write them in the comments below. I'd love to put together a little 1-page handout that Paul Areno and other people that are at these pen shows could hand out to new pen collectors. I know that the pens that we suggest will all be different, but if I could get them, each of the people that I ask, to come up with 5 that maybe show as much variety in how they differ from each other as possible, plus each one of the models they choose offer many different variations for a collector to collect. I think that would be good. Craig Roccanova showed perfectly how it can work with the Waterman 12. I'm sure other people can do one about the Parker 51. But again, for this first jump into the deep end, this is sort of what I would recommend. If you're a user and you don't have a particular reason to use every single pen of yours for calligraphy, I would suggest getting pens that have as wide a variety of nibs as you can. That's really a part of why I enjoy pens, is that each nib writes very differently. You could buy only flexible nib pens, and that's perfectly fine too, but you'll never learn the joy of writing with a little needle nose accountant nib. And if you like only big, firm stub nib pens, you'll not ever learn how to write with a flexible nib pen. So you're missing out a lot. So I would recommend having the nibs be as varied as possible for your first 5. Your 6 through 10, you might want to focus on flexible nibs. And from your 11th through 20th pen, maybe you'll end up focusing on Watermans. Not just 12s, but you can move to other versions of that era pen. You'll both expand and focus as you collect. Your focus will be narrow, but the options of the things that fit within that focus you'll learn will expand. And again, that's what's so much fun about collecting anything, but about collecting pens, it's really fun. And the coolest thing, I think, about how pens differ from stamps or coins or even watches is they are functional, but the character of a pen in your hand and what you do with it that's the icing on the cake. The watch you're wearing, the pocket watch or the wristwatch, that's very valuable. You might enjoy looking at it when you're finding out how late you are at the meeting or how long this appointment is going to take or whatever. You might get a smile as you do that, but it's not the same as a pen that actually connects more with your creativity. What will this point do? Will it draw a pretty picture? Write an angry letter? Take notes? What will it do? Draw. So that's sort of really the fun for these things, because for me, they are really an important tool to my life, my career, my hobby. I was drawing with an architect yesterday, and he loves drawing buildings. And I said, well, you draw buildings for fun and you draw buildings for work. He loves pens and pencils. He was showing me the favorite pencil he uses while at work. And to me, I looked at it, yeah, it's a pencil. I don't have the I don't have the pencil gene in me as he does. But anyway, the pens are fun for that reason. So it's good for you beginners that are moving back in time to collect the old ones. I think you're going to find the nib to be the most surprising element of these things. And I envy you. It's going to be a fun little trip you take. Send me a postcard. Tell me how much you were enjoying the trip. Meanwhile, I'll try to come up with a way to put my 2 cents worth into a piece of paper and see if I can find maybe 3 other people, 3 other collectors to come up with their list. And if I come up with this list, I'll make a PDF of it or something and put it out there for the world to see. I don't know, the end, I guess. Little tweeter, nice seeing you. Kim, nice seeing you again. I need to get some breakfast in me and get my day moving along. So, bye everyone.